All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week. We got our first film session of the second round today. We have 66 clips to hit from the two games. I'm going to be focusing on the entire second half from Denver OKC, specifically some of the dynamics at play with how much easier it was for Denver in the half court offensively versus OKC, which I think is very interesting in the big picture. And then in the Celtics game, we're going to be focusing on their shot selection in the second half. Fair warning to Celtics fans, it will be one of the most frustrating film sessions you've ever watched because they played some straight CTE basketball in that second half and cost themselves game one of the series. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also super helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. Jackson's also doing great work on our social media feed. Make sure you guys follow us there, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And then last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in those YouTube comments. All right, so as we start off with Denver OKC, I will never overreact to one game. I would not change my prediction until I saw something be repeated in a game two. But I am severely concerned for Oklahoma City after that first game. The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that does not stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets. Let's make this playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. In large part because in the second half in particular, Denver had their defense solved and got great shots every single time down the floor. They had, a 31-point quarter and a 35-point quarter. And on the other end of the floor, through a combination of some 1-2-2 zone, some double teams of Shai, especially late as he was driving, but also on his wing ISOs. They were strong side zoning and a bunch of different stuff like that. And OKC just looked lost. They looked like they didn't have any idea how to attack. There's also a basic reality in the sense that in order to match up with Jokic on the glass, they have to play Hartenstein. And Alex Caruso is just such an important defensive player for them to be able to hold up in this matchup. If you have Hartenstein and Caruso on the floor, you make yourself easier to guard. And so there's another question to be, another conversation to be had about whether or not OKC should consider just playing small and understanding they're going to get beat up on the glass, but at least be able to score the ball more effectively. And those are the kinds of things they're going to have to figure out over the course of the series. But I left that game last night thinking Denver literally gives up 29 points off of turnovers and still wins. Denver gets very little in the way of consistent offensive contribution from anybody on the roster outside of Jokic, and they win. That does not bode well for Oklahoma City for the rest of the series, especially considering how uncomfortable they looked in the half court. So let's look at some of these clips as we get into the details. So this first one, we have the Gordon high post entry here to the Jamal Murray high post entry to Aaron Gordon that Alex Caruso jumps the high side and gets the steal. Again, and it wasn't 29, it was 23. So Oklahoma City gets 23 points off of turnovers compared to just 5 for Oklahoma or for Denver. So an 18-point advantage for Oklahoma City in a clear margin. That is what Oklahoma City does better than everybody. That was where they caught Denver off guard last night. You catch Denver off guard with your defense and you score 23 easy ones in transition and you still lose the game. Just a devastating game one outcome for the Thunder. And that's just an easy place where Denver can clean stuff up. Like if we watch Gordon here, the mistake he's making is his contact with Alex is on Alex's left shoulder there. There's nothing sealing Alex from working up this high side. Aaron Gordon's going to have do a better job in game 2 of just sealing and creating a better passing angle there. J-Dub shooting a little floater over Jokic in a drop coverage. He gets a ball screen here, a little double screen, he reverses the second screen and takes this kind of like contested leaning away from his body floater against Jokic. Last night, J-Dub was 1 for 6 on twos that were outside of the restricted area and 2 for 5 at the rim. So 3 for 11 overall in the paint. And you guys will see plenty of examples in this film session of him just taking like pretty mediocre contested mid-range shots, especially early in the clock. Here goes Jokic just posting up Chet Holmgren. Let me fast forward a little bit. So Jokic on Chet, they run a little off-ball action. Jokic just easily backs him down, gets to his spot, and knocks down the little left shoulder hook. Jokic just did his work against Chet. That was a big part of why they ended up going to Hartenstein down the stretch, not just for the glass, but also dealing with him in their defensive scheme so they could put Hartenstein on Jokic and put Chet on Gordon behind the ball. But Jokic last night, 13 post-ups, 15 points last night, including passes. And remember, when both teams are getting less than 0.9 points per half-court possession, getting over a point per possession on a Jokic post-up is one of the more efficient play types that Denver can go to in the series. All righty. This was an example of the offensive rebounding problem that Denver presents. Fast forwarding a little bit here. So Chet's out of the play. He ends up chasing Jamal Murray down and tries to go for a block at the rim. Now what I want you guys to watch is the dynamic with Jokic behind the play there. As Chet's out of the play, look at the size advantage. It's Jokic with a bunch of 6'4", 6'5" guys around him. He's going to just eat everybody alive on the glass in this matchup. And you're going to see some more examples later in the game. There's just not a whole lot they can do. Same sort of thing here. Look, like Chet shows on this dribble handoff and gets a good contest on Jamal, which forces a miss. But now look at this dynamic. You've got Jokic rolling to the rim, Gordon on the baseline, and Christian Brown crashing out of the corner. And it's J-Dub, Shai, and Alex Caruso. They're just completely overwhelmed. Shai steps over to try to box out Jokic, and Christian Brown is the beneficiary. He's right there. He ends up drawing the foul. These dynamics are replicable, guys. And this is the main thing I want you to pay attention to. As you can see here, there are problems that Oklahoma City cannot solve in this matchup. This is not, they're not going to suddenly get bigger and more physically imposing as the series progresses. This is going to be a problem throughout. Here we go. This is the Caruso peel-off block. A lot of examples of this last night. Alex Caruso was amazing in his help side defense and his on-ball defense. So Jokic, as soon as he turns his shoulder, we saw so many examples of this last night. Whenever Denver would turn their back to an OKC defender, this guy would just leave and try to get back into the play. Gets a big block on Jokic there. Look at how Denver's guarding these SGA ISOs. Jokic is strong side zoning. Gordon is gapping down off of Chet. Michael Porter and Jamal Murray both are basically foot in the paint. They're just packing the side. And as they relocate through, Alex Caruso relocates through. Shai gives it up to him. Then they immediately double Shai off of that dribble handoff. Shai actually makes a nice pass through Christian Brown's legs here to Alex Caruso. But now Alex Caruso drives through, makes a nice drop off. This was a good example of them breaking down the double team, but I mainly just wanted to highlight that clip to show you guys just how aggressive Denver is being in their loading up against Shai. And like we talked about this, like I talked about it in the series preview, they're going to load up. This is going to be a processing series for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So now we have Hartenstein in the game, and we're getting that look that I talked about. Hartenstein on Jokic and Aaron Gordon on Chet. And they run a ball screen to get Dort switched onto Jokic. Then Jokic basically attacks Dort, and look at Chet that's in help. And these are the kinds of shots that Jokic is so good at. He spins off the small and floats over the big. Just elite shot making there from Nikola Jokic. A double team of Shai on this ISO along the baseline, but this creates a rebounding mismatch underneath the basket because now Chet and Hartenstein are going 2-on-1 against Jokic, and they're able to get in there and get an offensive rebound. If Denver is going to double team Shai and throw all this attention at Shai, you have to make them pay for it through quick processing to get quality looks and by attacking the offensive glass. Aaron Gordon here gets open in transition and makes a three. A lot of examples in the second half of Aaron Gordon getting open in transition at the three-point line, most famously on the game winner, something Oklahoma City is going to have to pay attention to. They got to track Aaron Gordon. He is running to the three-point line. Another example of how Denver is guarding OKC, we're going to get a Hartenstein-Shai two-man game with some weak side action. But look, Jamal Murray is ignoring that action. They're not worried about this at all whatsoever. On the play, Denver is defending the ball screen 3-on-2. And Shai and Hartenstein just stay on that side of the floor. These guys are kind of cutting and moving around, but there's no attempt to actually get the ball across to the other side. They just try to score 3-on-2, and that's really hard. We get a Shai air ball because of an excellent rear view contest from Christian Braun off of the ball screen. But if they're just going to play 2-on-3 and 1-on-2 all series and not actually look to move the ball and beat Denver's loaded up defense, this series could get ugly for Oklahoma City pretty quick. Once again, similarly to that last ISO that we saw from Shai on the other side of the floor, look at how they're loaded up. Strong side zone loaded up from Jokic. It almost looks like a box and one with the way they set up against these ISOs. They run a nice little off-ball action for Isaiah Joe as he kind of relocates up to the top there, cuts through, relocates to the top. Watch Michael Porter Jr. Excellent read and react defensive play to get a late contest on Isaiah Joe and force an air ball. Look at how Jokic in the middle of the floor commands so much attention on this pocket pass. He's got four bodies completely geared up on him. So what ends up happening here is it creates all these really high-quality offensive rebound opportunities on the back line for Gordon, for Russ, for Brown. On the miss, look at Gordon. Gordon's untouched. Gordon's untouched crashing because Jokic is drawing four bodies on that roll to the basket. I don't see a solution for OKC for that problem. I don't know how they're going to be. If you let Jokic operate free and clear in the middle, he's going to kill you. If you send extra bodies to him, Christian Braun and Aaron Gordon and all them are going to demolish you on the glass. I'm having a hard time coming up with like a schematic adjustment for the fact that Denver can just beat the shit out of this team on the glass. So many of these types of shots for OKC in the half court against Denver's defense. High ball screen against the drop, 19 on the shot clock. J-Dub just takes another look at this great rear view contest from Russ. Russ is right there. And there's 17 seconds on the shot clock. But that's the thing. J-Dub's just very young. He's young and he hasn't been in too many of these types of series. And last night he took a lot of bad shots and he went 5 for 20. And, that doesn't mean he can't go 12 for 20 in game 2 and look like the hero. But there's a level of consistency that you see from veteran basketball players that you don't see from the younger basketball players. Really nice backdoor cut here from Russ on the Jamal Murray drive. Watch Russ. As Jamal drives, nice read on that back cut. Great pass from Jamal. Quickly goes up and finishes. When OKC excuse me, when OKC actually looked to move the ball in the middle of the floor, they got good stuff. Here's an example. Shai comes off the ball screen. There's 3 Nuggets defending the action. Simple driving kick to Jalen Williams. Wide open catch and shoot 3 goes in. Just that's the processing piece that they're going to have to be very sharp with in this series. I just pulled this clip because I thought it perfectly demonstrated the problem that OKC is dealing with Jokic in this series. He just looks like a man amongst boys. A man amongst boys. Look at this. Go ripping right through the biggest man on the floor, and then look at just the lack of size. Jokic looks like a refrigerator among a bunch of smaller humans. It's just crazy. I don't know how they're going to be able to handle this over the course of the series. All right, we're going to skip ahead to crunch time here for a minute because I want to focus on some of the specific dynamics on both ends of the floor. I thought this was just a massive shot from Jamal Murray. 4.5 minutes left. OKC goes up by 11, and it's a straight ISO. Good screen navigation from Alex. You end up in a late clock situation after Jokic passes the ball out of the Hartenstein drive. Boom. Now, you need to create a bucket against the other team's best defender with 7 seconds. Watch this nasty double cross. Boom, boom. That's disgusting. Took some of the steam out of the crowd too, like a big shot in that moment in the game. OKC's first offensive possession out of that. Another example of OKC just not really knowing what to do in the half court. It's just a straight ISO, and Shai just throws up a really bad shot in the middle of the floor. Denver gets the defensive rebound. Here's another example of a successful double and rotate against Shai. Double team the ball, rotate to Caruso. Aaron Gordon also even misses this rotation here. I think J-Dub's got to knock down the shot, but still, you're getting a contested catch and shoot three out of a Shai double team because Denver rotates the ball well. Or rotates on defense well, I should say. These are the types of reads that OKC is going to have to make consistently. Watch as Shai drives off this ball screen. J-Dub's open on the cut. If Shai throws this ball to J-Dub, it's a dunk. Misses it. They end up having to run again. Shai does make a nice read here into the pocket to Hartenstein, who hits the floater. But again, those reads are going to be open against this Denver defense, and OKC is going to have to be relentlessly making those reads every time down the floor. Jokic going 1-on-5 and just getting to the rim. 9-point game, 2.5 minutes left. Watch Jokic here. Just drives into 5 Thunder players and gets into the lane and draws a foul. Again, I just don't see a solution for this problem. More Denver packing the paint. Look at how they're loaded up on Shai, guys. And part of the issue here is you've got Hartenstein and Caruso on the floor. And, even Chet as well. There's just a lot of iffy shooters here. J-Dub just missed a wide open catch and shoot three. Like, it just turns into this situation where it becomes kind of like ISO ball. The triple team, they rotate out of it, rotate to J-Dub. This is the passing lane closeout from Jamal that we talked about on playback last night. Watch how Jamal doesn't close out to J-Dub. It closes out to the passing lane. That baits J-Dub into throwing this pass fake, which allows Russ to rotate. J-Dub ends up passing it off to Hartenstein, who misses the floater. Big time rebound from Russell Westbrook, too. In crunch time with 6-point game, 2 minutes, 15 seconds left, Denver runs a random possession of a 1-2-2 zone. Or is it on the next possession? Let's see. Here it is. So I couldn't tell if this was a man-to-man or a zone in playback last night. I'm kind of looking at it as a zone because watch how as these guys relocate through, like as J-Dub cuts through, Russ stays put. See how they're just like staying in that like kind of 1-2-2 zone type of look. But what it may be is kind of a similar principle to what we talked about on those Shai ISOs on the wing, where they just use the 2 closest defenders on either side of the driving lane to essentially zone up in just these 2 spots. But as you guys can see, every time Shai gets the ball, whether it's at the top of the key, whether it's on the wing or over here, they're manning up, and then they're basically having the other 4 defenders zone up in like a box and one on Shai's ISOs, and it just flummoxed them. They end up throwing a quick little swing pass to Chet Holmgren, who misses a 3. More Jokic dominance, this time against Alex Caruso. Let's fast forward. We get a ball screen, switch, toss the ball back to Jokic against Alex, and then it's just back down. 4 dribbles. Ready? Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, left shoulder hook. I mean, there's a double team from J-Dub here, and Chet's on the back line, and it just doesn't matter. Again, like, I'm curious if you guys have some ideas, drop them in the comments. I don't understand a pathway for Oklahoma City to solve that specific problem in this series. And that doesn't mean they can't find solutions on this end of the floor. OKC has a lot of solutions on this end of the floor. But on the defensive end, I don't know how they're going to stop Denver from just routinely putting up 65-point halves the way that they did in that second half. Here we go again. Same sort of Jokic or Shai loaded up ISO. They brought a lot of these kind of late double teams like what Russ does here. Missed jump shot. This was Chet's first opportunity to win this game that he blew. He beats Aaron Gordon on this like corner crash and has the game in his hands right there. You finish that. It's 117-111 with 1:27 left, and Denver's in an infinitely tougher spot to try to win this game. Good example of jab step work from Nikola Jokic here. We'll fast forward. He ends up faced up with Isaiah Hartenstein at the top of the key. Okay. What I want you guys to look at where Hartenstein's feet is as he's pressuring Jokic. He's got his left foot on the 3-point line. Now watch as he's working this jab step game. Jab. Jab again. Look at where Hartenstein's feet are now. He got Hartenstein from the NBA line to the top of the key, and that creates the separation for him to step into that three and knock it down. More packing the paint on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Switch on Jamal. Little hedge and recover. Drives again. Late double team from Russell Westbrook. Shai makes the right read and kicks to J-Dub here, but then J-Dub needs to make the next read, right? So, first of all, first mistake. He has the ability to get middle here. And if he gets middle, he will likely take take Jokic with him. And if he takes Jokic with him towards the middle of the floor, Jamal Murray has to make a decision either to step up and help or to drop back on one of these two guys, and you've got two guys that can finish at the rim. Instead, he racks baseline into Alex Caruso. Okay? Now it's an easy set of help reads because Alex Caruso is a complete non-threat. And Alex Caruso, because he's a non-threat, has to relocate out. And J-Dub has an opportunity to kick to Dort here on the right wing if he makes a clean catch and shoot, clean closeout read. Instead, though, he tries to finish in traffic over a set of three defenders. Russ, great late contest, great defensive rebound from Jokic. So as you can see, if he racks to the middle, he's likely getting a layup or a dunk for one of these two guys. If he racks baseline, fine, whatever, even though that's the bad read, there's your kick out. These are the kinds of reads that Oklahoma City is going to have to make that they just did not make in game one. And I talked about this before the series. This is where they've shown growth this year, but a lot of regression last night. And then just for fun for Nuggets fans, here's the game winner. Really nice read in transition from Russell Westbrook. Big time shot from Aaron Gordon to steal game one. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting me and supporting the show. We will be live on YouTube tonight after the final buzzer of Warriors Timberwolves, and then we'll be live on playback after that. I will see you guys then.